Recording everything. It's all recording. Okay. And yep, we're good. Okay, we got Current Geek queued. All right, we're good. All right, here we go. It begins in 3, 2, 1.
I have
Current Geek.
Current Geek.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Current Geek, the talk show about items of interest to the geeks of the world and you. I'm Scott Johnson. He's Tom Merritt. Hi, Tom.
I am excited to be here, Scott, because I think we have maybe one of the best stories we've ever covered in Current Geek history.
Oh my gosh, really? I don't even know which one of these it is, but I'm excited. I should know. I read through these all. Let's see. I don't know.
It's the first one.
Oh, it is the first one. All right. Well, no, I should have known. I know you well enough, long enough to know that this would be of high interest to you. So that's very exciting. Also, the word phylacteries in there, and that's also exciting.
Right? When have we ever used that word? Never.
I used it recently in a game of Diablo 3 because the
as you would.
Yeah, because the necromancer uses a phylactery. But in our just common sort of exchange with each other, I don't think we've ever had an opportunity.
It's a holiday story.
Yeah.
It's a geek story.
Yeah.
It's a gaming story.
Yeah.
It's got the word phylactery.
Yeah. What else can you want?
It's a story of drama and conspiracies.
They have Saint of Claus written with a K. I mean, all this stuff is good. Yeah. We'll get to all that in a minute. It's good to be here, folks. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday evening. There's ice on my road, not on Tom's, and that's how it works.
There was water on my road, but it was liquid.
Oh, that's true. And full of terrible
air. And it was because
a
sprinkler broke, not because of anything.
All right. Well, the home repairs of Tom Merritt continue.
That wasn't me. No, it was when I was out on my walk. I was like, oh, a sprinkler broke.
Oh, good. Well, all right. Let's dive right in, folks. Here are the headlines.
Herbert Hoover, Secretary of Commerce in 1922, finds infant radio facilitates news gathering, as do many others in high public office.
Do you have the headlines?
I do.
Oh, good.
On the Dungeons & Dragons subreddit, someone who calls himself Kid Black, with 2 Ds, proposed the theory that Frosty the Snowman, Scott Johnson, is in fact a lich.
Oh, geez, Louises.
Lich, defined as the remains of great wizards who embrace undeath as a way of preserving themselves. So this is the D&D manual definition of lich.
Of the lich, right. Very common.
All right.
Very common thing in D&D, but also a much ripped off idea for many a video game and other competing board games.
Perhaps you've heard of the Wrath of the Lich King.
Sure.
A popular video game among the kids.
Yeah. Kids are into it.
Back in its day.
In 2008.
So lich, think about it, folks. Frosty the Snowman, remains of a great wizard who embrace undeath as a way of preserving themselves. You may not immediately think that describes Frosty the Snowman, but I present to you the following. The old top hat those kids found is, in fact, a phylactery, allowing the lich spirit to possess the snow body. A phylactery can be any object in which the wizard has preserved themselves. Many of you are familiar with the Horcrux of Harry Potter fame. That is a kind of phylactery. This phylactery would be a top hat. And as they point out on Kotaku, and I think Kid Black pointed out, what wizard wouldn't use a top hat as the phylactery? It's perfect. You keep your spirit in there. You got plenty of space inside to make your engravings of your runes and whatnot. And then as soon as somebody pops it on, boom, you possess them.
Yeah, it's not unlike the helm in you mentioned it earlier, Wrath of the Lich King. That's what the helmet of Arthas does. Is it acts as a phylactery and seals the deal.
Yeah. Now, if that alone is not enough for you, my friends, think of the fact that Lich Frosty charms children into being his thralls.
Oh, my Lord.
Torments villagers with his broomstick staff.
It's getting dark.
And Kid Black suspects that the thumpity thump thump thumpity thump thump that you hear as Frosty goes is the sounds of bodies hitting the ground.
Wow. Okay, did anything in there about when Frosty melts and it's just his corn cob pipe and his hat and his nose?
Sure. A lot of times these sorts of spells will have a time limit. They only last for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
Perhaps a seasonally related time. right?
Yeah.
Like when winter ends, so doth the spell for another season until the phylactery may possess again when winter come.
All right, I'm all in on this. I don't even like that cartoon. It's like my least favorite holiday cartoon or animation of any kind. I was always more prone to the stop motion stuff, and I always found this to be kind of terrible. But now I'm going to look at it with new eyes and enjoy it on a new level. Chat room says sometimes a phylactery is just a phylactery. Oh no, my friends! It goes deep, this one.
Kotaku investigated, and Kotaku's Cameron Kunzelman, who covers D&D, professionally agrees that, in fact, yes, Frosty does seem to fit the definition of a lich. Reddit user Merkig created a stat sheet for Frosty the Lich Monster.
Nice.
If you'd like to play Frosty. And Kid Black also noted, consider his arch rival, the Saint of Claus, leader of the Holy Order of Giving, as the hook for the quest to stop the serendipitous sullying of seasons.
Wow. Well, as a guy who plays a weekly D&D 3-hour session and records it and streams it, I understand the desire to see D&D in everything when you've been playing for a long time, and it's easy to do. So I'm totally for this. It's 100% fine. I start using comments upstairs like Kim will drop a cup and then catch it right before it breaks, and I'll go, +1 to, or you rolled a perfect 20 on your physical acrobatics or whatever it is. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. So I totally get this. I don't judge anyone for this. And when I watch that cartoon again, I will think of it in a whole different way.
You seem to be defending this idea as if it needs defense.
Probably doesn't, no.
I think this is clearly obvious that Frosty the Snowman is a lich.
You're going literal then.
Dexterity +5 and wisdom +7.
So what you're saying is all those parents in the 80s that were telling us D&D was going to be our downfall, you're saying they were right. Because you're buying
I'm
in.
not saying that at all. Why would I? How does that proceed from just the identification of the lich nature of Frosty?
If you think that the nature of the lich is a real thing, and a phylactery is real, well, then what you're doing is confirming to those people in the 70s and 80s that all these kids are crazy. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think that's what I'm saying at all.
What are you saying then?
When have I said those words that you just said in any form?
Yeah, kind of.
I have merely stated the facts that lead to the conclusion that Frosty the Snowman is a lich. Now, if you're saying, I know Frosty, he's a real snowman, therefore, when you say he's a lich, you're talking about the real world, then, Scott, I think we have bigger problems.
All right, well, put your phylactery down. We'll work this out later.
This old stovepipe hat I found. You don't seem to be as taken by this.
No, I think it's great. I actually really do think this is super cool, and I love it. I love this idea. Now it makes me think of other childhood stories and things. Maybe even you could go back as far as fairy tales and find some pretty wacky stuff in there and bring it forward to fit some sort of descriptions and D&D.
Did you look over the stat sheet for Frosty?
Yeah, it's good.
It's pretty good. Yeah. I think you could work it in.
All right, but that's what I'm saying. I'm going to tell Bo about this. He can DM it right into our campaign.
Yeah.
And we'll fight the snowman together and hopefully prevail. That'd be the goal.
I'm sorry. I was talking about the saving throws earlier when I mentioned the dexterity. That was my mistake.
Oh, nice job.
He's got a 10 dexterity.
Okay.
12 strength.
All right.
17.
Any other secret stuff that I should know about? Well, I guess
stick arm, melee weapon attack +6 to hit.
Yeah. Let's see here. Legendary actions.
Immune to any kind of cold damage. No cold spell is going to work on him.
Yep. He's got his cantrips, Frostbite, Prestidigitation, and Ray of Frost. Really? He's got Prestidigitation? That just cleans stuff up. That's a weird thing to give him.
Legendary resistance, 2 a day. If Frosty fails a saving throw, he can choose to succeed instead. Twice a day.
Frosty casts Frostbite or Ray of Frost. So they gave him all the cold spells. Let's see. Refrost costs 2 actions. Frosty patches up his wounds. Oh, that's bad. That's bad. 25 hit points. Okay, he's formidable actually. And this is legit the way they've done this. This is
and
really
if Frosty remains motionless, he is indistinguishable from a normal snowman.
Is it dumb to say that he's really cool? Because that's a bad pun.
No, I think that's great.
Okay. All right.
He's the coolest.
Sounds good to me. Hey, if you guys include Frosty in your campaigns, let us know. We'd like to know how it went. And I really will see if Bo will do this. I think it could be fun.
Yeah. I need to find a stat sheet for Saint of Claus.
Yeah. We can't do it without that guy. Are you kidding?
All right. Let's move on to the sad news that with the usual thanks to the cast and crew, Netflix announced this last season of Daredevil is the last season of Daredevil on Netflix. There are a bunch of rumors out there that, I don't know, Daredevil might show up in the MCU or Daredevil might show back up on the Disney streaming service, or they might recast it and just start all over again. It's all uncertain, but what is certain is no more Daredevil on Netflix. That leaves the Punisher, which has a season in production, and Jessica Jones, which has a season in production, as the last two Marvel shows left on Netflix. And Scott, I would lay good odds that as soon as those seasons drop, within a few weeks, Netflix cancels them as well.
I agree. And I think this all is not, this isn't just nobody's watching them. It's not that.
Nope.
It's not that at all. It's, hey, we're Disney. We are going to do a thing now, and we'd probably like to just have all our stuff over here. So we'll fulfill our end of the deal that we made, and we'll get, and the contract will end amicably, and it won't, we're not going to break any contracts or anything. And then when it's all done, we get to do with our properties what we want. And
well, I don't think it's Disney. I think Disney would be fine having these continue on Netflix.
Do you think this is Netflix? Oh, I didn't even
I think it's
that
Netflix.
angle.
I think it's Netflix saying, I don't really need to have anything that's promoting, even in a vague form, your competing streaming service.
Interesting.
On my platform. So, like, I think everything else you said, like, no bad feelings, we'll honor our contracts and everybody's polite about it. I don't think there's bad blood or anything, but I think they're just extricating themselves, saying, yeah, because according to one of the writers of season 4 of Daredevil, which won't happen now, they had already written a story arc and were working on scheduling the writing of the episodes when they got the call, like, hey, you guys, stop your work. We're not having a season.
I mean, I'm happy to hear about Jessica Jones and Punisher, in particular Punisher, because I think that's the best of the whole lot, in my opinion. But yeah, now that you've said it this way, I actually think I agree with that. I've been kind of scratching my head because they're not really saying why. They're just saying it's canceling. Like, they're not getting out in front of it and going, well, it's because we don't get along anymore, or it's because Netflix doesn't want the thing, or Disney wants this. They don't do any of that. The big the big concern a lot of people I see out there saying is this. If Disney gets it back and they decide to put something up, let's say a Daredevil series on their own streaming service, because they're Disney and because it's more MCU over there, does it lose its edge? Its slightly more violent approach, its language, its whatever. Like, does that edge go away and therefore waters it down and people aren't going to be happy about it, but maybe it'll still be good to just more broad audience? Or does it go over there and they recast it completely and rethink it and end up with a character that they don't make a TV show around, they just put in the MCU, like, straight up into the movies, and bam, we're back to making Daredevil movies? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. And they're not saying. So, if anyone thinks that Disney's going to turn... I mean, that's why it was a nice deal with Netflix. It was like they could hand it over there and say, okay, we're cool with it being what it's going to be on Netflix, Edge and all. But I'm not so sure they'll be so cool on their own service.
Yeah, I wonder if it's more complex than even we're giving it credit for. Netflix says, we're tremendously proud of the show's final season, and although it's painful for the fans, we feel it best to close this chapter on a high note. Sort of implying that next season wasn't going to be very good, you guys.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Which I don't know if that's exactly what they mean. And they say the 3 existing seasons will remain on the service for years to come, while the Daredevil character will live on in future projects for Marvel. So they out and out say, like, hey, Daredevil ain't dead. Disney's going to do what Disney's going to do with it. So you probably haven't seen the last of Daredevil, but what has been done here will stay here. I wonder if it's a complex situation where Disney was starting to say, what we'd really like you to do is include, some crossover stuff. Even if it's just for the films. Right. Netflix might have started to feel uncomfortable, like, well, yeah, but those films, they don't benefit us. And when they go out of the movie theater and they get on streaming, they're going to go to you. So, maybe there was a little back and forth where they both were trying to figure out how to make this work. And Disney's expectations, given the fact that they're trying to create a streaming service that will live off of the backs of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, just wasn't workable. I mean, you look at it, they're not doing ABC shows either, and they own ABC.
Right. Well, that's a really good point, yeah. I don't know. It's just interesting. I mean, it made me, when I first started, I went, oh, is Daredevil doing bad? But I keep hearing how great that third season was, and, you know, people are freaking out, but they don't give numbers. Netflix doesn't tell us how many people are watching or not watching things. So we don't know if... And
that's the thing is, the idea of like a show getting canceled because it's doing bad is old-fashioned.
Right.
Not that it doesn't happen.
Right.
Powerless got killed because it was doing bad. Mm-hmm. But these days, there's so many other ways to have a show be a success. It's not just a matter of numbers anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, it has to do with ancillary properties and syndication and, you know, monetization. And with Netflix, it's like, we don't care if a large number of people watch it. We just want the right number of people to watch it.
I can't remember what happened with Sense8. Didn't they come out and say it just didn't perform the way we needed it to? But then again, they just don't say what that means.
But it wasn't too few people watched it. It was, we just weren't getting the right people watching it.
Right.
It was, they have a whole system to evaluate whether a show is actually impacting subscription retention or not. That's what they care about.
I think you're right. Tom Dragosa, a usual in the chat room, says, so bring back Better Off Ted then. I agree. That show was great. Shouldn't have been canceled. And Netflix could have brought it back and it would have been the best comedy ever. You terrible bastards for not bringing that back.
Haven't we brought back enough?
Probably have. We have a phylactery.
Even I, who am a big fan of the nostalgia trip, I'm starting to wonder where it all ends.
Yeah, there is some. I am feeling a little bit of that, a little fatigue on it. The fan service that's happening around certain things is starting to. I mean, maybe I'm just getting to the point where I've had too much of it, and it's fine for a generation coming up or something. But I'm kind of feeling that, a little fatigue on that. I mean,
pretty soon we're going to be rebooting Lost.
Oh, Lord.
Breaking Bad.
Let's not do it.
Even with Better Call Saul still on the air, they're going to reboot Breaking Bad because we're just going to run out of things to get nostalgic.
This is a good point. The window had closed, right? Better Off Ted was amazing, but it only ran for 2 seasons on network TV. It was then extremely popular on streaming, and it kind of took on a whole new life of its own. It should have been one of those deals where they picked it right up if this was going to work. If they don't pick it right up, and that was a different time for Netflix. It's not like it is today where they'll pick up shows that are now we're canceling. Don't worry, Netflix or Amazon Prime is going to pick you up the way it did with The Expanse and other stuff. That didn't happen then because the timing was bad, and then you got this huge gap of time now. You can't do it now. Tondragosa. I'm with you though, buddy. That was a great show.
We are not against Tondragosa. Tondragosa and his example of Better Off Ted are great examples. It just led me to a further thought.
Yeah, Tom's thinking about the phylactery they have to use at the networks to bring back something to life.
Deep inside 30 Rock, the NBC tower, a phylactery peacock.
Speaking of which, we're bringing back 30 Rock.
China Aerospace Sciences and Industry Corporation has adopted a multiple launch rocket system to extinguish fires in high-rise buildings. You heard me right. They shoot rockets at buildings to put out fires.
Wow.
Can reach fires as high as 300 meters with fire extinguishing powder as the payload. It has night vision and can calculate the trajectory automatically based on where it senses the fire is.
So obviously this is a new kind of way of doing this. I've never heard of such a thing before, but
you say that, I have not researched it. And I get very nervous saying things like that because immediately someone points out, oh, yeah, no, they were doing this in the U.S. 10 years ago, and it didn't work for this reason. So I am thoroughly prepared for someone to tell us this is old. But this video from China Television that was posted on subreddit appears to be recent.
Yeah, this looks pretty recent. It's also recently talked about on various sites. Back in July 31st to be exact, in 2018, there's an article about the Swedish Air Force who dispatched, let's see, these are called Jas-39 Griffin fighter jets to drop a bomb on the flames as a last result with the hope that the pressure from the blast would help maintain the blaze. Now, that's different than a flame retardant.
Forest fire?
Yeah, it's a forest fire. So it's obviously not, it's not a building.
Yeah, it's
not
an entirely
something.
Different thing.
But this idea of strategic...
We're familiar with those out here.
Sure. Strategic... targeted methods, smart methods, even like drone controlled or whatever. I think that is new, like kind of across the board, and I think that's great. That's better than raking the forest floor. as one idea was put forward. I would much rather try to...
these are two separate things. I know you're really trying to get your political stance shoehorned into this, but it has nothing to do with it.
You're right. You're right. You're totally right. Okay, let's say you're in the fire on the 3rd floor of a building in Manhattan or something.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. If there are people in the building, can you do this?
Yeah, right. That's what I want to know. Or if you're one of the people in there and you see that coming, what are you to do?
Or is this a thing where like you have to have everybody out of the building before you can use this?
Yeah. Yeah, I
don't know.
I don't know either. I don't want to be in there. I don't want
to. It's pretty targeted though.
Yeah.
So it's only saying like, oh, there's an intense amount of fire on that 3rd floor. Fire the powder, and it's just firing powder. We're not firing explosives. Scott was talking about a totally different thing with the forest fires.
Sure,
that was different. This is not explosive, other than the powder exploding out of the payload in order to try to spread itself around the fire.
It says here the rocket is capable of going through glass of up to 19 millimeters thick when launched from hundreds of meters away, according to the Chinese Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation. It uses technologies from China's space launch vehicles and missiles, and each rocket can put out a fire in a room of up to 60 cubic meters. And they look like straight up missiles, like these here, Chad.
I figure if you're launching this thing at a fire, that fire probably doesn't. Anyone near that fire is dead, right? So you're probably like, it doesn't matter if there are people around, as long as we don't miss.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, you don't want this to show up in the freaking, the bank down the road.
Yeah,
full of people trying to...
we shot a little high.
Yeah.
Where did it land?
Yeah, that's crazy. I love stuff like this, though. Plus, I feel like more and more China deals with all sorts of demographic differences than we do in terms of like city sizes and population density and lots of stuff we don't even have to think about in the United States. And so they have to be creative, and this feels pretty creative.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Netflix announced it is going to bring out a live-action version of the classic Cowboy Bebop. Yeah. The original animated series director, Shinichiro Watanabe, will participate as a consultant. The series' original Japanese production company will share executive producer duties. And Chris Yost, who wrote Thor Ragnarok, will write the first episode.
So... I feel like I might be the only person on the planet when this news came out that got excited, because there are a lot of diehard fans of the series, and I'm one of them. I love Cowboy Bebop. It's probably my favorite anime, and I haven't watched, a huge library of anime by any stretch, but enough to know what I like, and I really liked it. And when I heard, I went, "Oh, dude, perfect! This is perfect for this." Like, basically, it's got a little Firefly in it, it's got a little Matrix in it, it's got a little Blade Runner. It's got all these little bits and pieces of things I love that make up Cowboy Bebop, and taking that into a live action setting with the right budget and people and direction could be really awesome. But there are a bunch of people who are super, super pissed about this and think it shouldn't be done. And I don't know if that part of that is because Netflix has made a couple of live action adaptations of animes and they have not been good. Full Metal Alchemist is terrible, but the anime is awesome. There's other examples. I can't think of. Oh, Death Note. Some love Death Note, others don't. But so I get it. You're apprehensive. I get it. I understand the fandom here and how tenuous that is. But I love that show, and I am wanting more of it in a different form. So yes, I'm excited. Are you excited?
I am cautiously excited. We actually talked about this on Cord Killers this week as well. And Brian Brushwood very eloquently made the case for letting people try and failing, right? There were some people in our chat room there who were like, this should not be done. It's diluting the franchise. It's a crime against my childhood, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I just don't ever see it that way. I don't necessarily think it's a sure thing it'll be good,
right?
But I'm not one of those people who's like, don't ever make anything unless it's perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
I'm not against them giving this a shot. If it's bad, it's bad, and then we just all ignore it and say, well, that was too bad. Sorry that exists. There are people who argue like, but if it's bad and it exists, it will always be there, and it will be bugging you that it is ruined. I feel like there's a little OCD involved in that perspective of like, but I have a pristine Cowboy Bebop arrangement right now, and I don't want it marred by just the knowledge that there's something else out there. And so it comes down to, like, if you're not going to be that extreme about it, how likely is it that they could do this right?
Right.
When have we taken television shows, live action, from some other property, some other animated property, and made it a success?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this actually a little bit in our last episode, but this always reminds me of the chatter I heard when it was announced that FX was making a live action, well, not live action, it's already live action, but making a multiple season anthology series for Fargo.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being so excited because I love Fargo so much. It's just in my top 10 of all time. I love it. I love it. I love the Coen brothers, and I love that movie. And everybody was sure this was a horrible mistake. You're going to ruin the legacy. It's going to suck. It's going to be bad. And what ended up happening was 3 of my favorite seasons of any TV ever. I love Fargo. And a lot of people love Fargo. Critics love Fargo. Fargo won awards. Fargo was good. Like, they nailed it. I don't want to live in a world where they're not allowed to make that risk. If it hadn't worked out, I still would have had Fargo. It didn't change that. You can go watch that terrible Airbender movie that M. Night Shyamalan made and go, ooh, this is a bad movie. Thank goodness we still have the cartoon it's based on, because that's awesome. It's totally possible to do that. It doesn't ruin the previous thing. So Darth Vader is no less cool because he was kind of a weenie when he was Anakin in those prequels. He's still really cool and fits the old movies in the perfect way I want. That's another example. There's plenty of examples like that. So I guess what I'm saying is I agree with Tom 100%, and I would rather them try to do this and screw up than not try at all.
And I could see people already making but those are different because they're not this exact situation. I mean, that's where you end up going with that argument, right? It's like, well, that's different because it's science fiction. Right. Well, that's different because they are not adapting it directly. Well, that's different because it wasn't exactly the same kind of animation, right? Like, you're going to argue yourself in a corner eventually because it's like, well, that's different because it's not anime. Well, that's different because it's not Cowboy Bebop, right? So I think it's possible. I know there have not been a precedent that we can take an animated property that's great and turn it into live action. There isn't. Right.
There are definitely, there's high profile goofs out there that we could point to. Chat just brought up Ghost in the Shell. That was not a great movie for a lot of people.
No. My point is, like, you can say, well, but this happened and it wasn't good, and this happened and it wasn't good.
Right.
That doesn't mean that this won't be the first time it's good.
Oh, right, exactly. I totally.
And it doesn't mean they shouldn't try.
Yeah.
I think it's good that they're like, you know what? We're going to bring on the director. We're going to bring on the company. We're going to listen to them, and we're going to try to make this work. Mm-hmm. Good. Go for it, man. See if you can be the first, right? Yeah. Nobody went to the moon till somebody went to the moon. Mm-hmm. And then nobody ever went back because it's really hard. So, this is really hard. It's not as hard as going to the moon. We can put a man on the moon. We can make a live action Cowboy Bebop, Scott.
That's damn straight we can. And I think they're going to sure try. And if it works out, man, we're all winners. Even you haters right now are winners too. But if it sucks, we'll move on to something else. It's an embarrassment of riches.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Somebody get hurt? Show me the harm. Show me the actual harm in trying.
There's no harm in trying.
Because people telling other people not to try is what stops humanity from progressing.
That's right. You know what? Try. What is Homer say? No, Homer's no good because he said when at first you don't succeed, never try again. So don't follow that. Do the opposite of that. And for all the Aeon Fluxes and all of the Full Metal Alchemists out there, we're bound to get one that's super cool. We probably already have, and I just can't think of it at the moment. Anime, I know, is a bit of an untouched resource in this regard, but we'll get there. They could do Voltron. I still say there could be a great live-action Voltron one day. I still think that'll come, but there are plenty of people who disagree with me. Whatever. Let's just wait and see. And when do we get this? This is, we don't know.
Well, I don't think
we don't have a date. Okay. Well, wait and see, you guys. Patience. It'll be fine.
Scientists from MIT published a paper in Nature describing a 12-second, 60-meter test flight of a 2.45-kilogram plane with no moving parts.
Whoa.
Such a plane would be quieter, easier to maintain, and have no emissions. Scott? No emissions.
How is this, any of this? Okay, keep going.
The thruster uses high voltage to generate ions in the air around 2 electrodes. Scott, there are twin electrodes generating ions.
Okay.
Twin ion engines, you might say, even though they're not engines. Electrodes, twin ion electrodes, or TIEs. If you were to put this in a fighter, Scott, you could call it a TIE fighter.
Oh, yeah, the old TIE fighter name.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, this is a real thing. The ions get thrown between the electrodes, colliding with air, which creates ionic wind.
Yeah.
The technique has been known since the 1960s, but it could never make enough thrust to move an object until now. Current system may or may not be able to scale to passenger plane size. That's still a big question. But even if it can't, there's a way to use it in combination with traditional jet engines to reduce the drag. Because essentially, as the air moves along the side of a jet engine plane, it starts to collect and it'll build up and cause drag on the plane, causing the engine to have to work harder to get the plane going at the speed it needs to be. If these little ion engines were there, it could speed the air back up and therefore reduce the drag on the plane, meaning that the jet engines wouldn't have to work as hard to maintain the same speed.
Yeah, I think this is really cool across the board, and there's other implications. Obviously, it's not just air travel that this would probably benefit. That's usually how this stuff works. Technology will get used someplace else, and we'll get further and further away from, burning oil to move things, and closer to everything being air, electrons, and sun. And I'm all for it. And I would love to be, I know the scaling is an issue, obviously, but I'd love to be on a passenger plane that was just quiet for once. They don't exist. It doesn't happen. You get up there and they're just, especially if you're anywhere near the rear of the plane, you just want to die in those things. So yeah. I pine for a future where 2 electrodes are carrying me from here to there, and not what we have now. I imagine
you need several pairs of electrodes to
probably.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to scale.
Well, scaling's always hard, but I like this a lot.
But this is a big deal, even though it's only a 12-second, 60-meter flight of a 2.5 kilogram plane.
Yeah.
It did it. It did it for real. No moving parts.
Yeah, look what they said about the Wright brothers. They thought that was pretty funny until it worked. So, hey, look where we are now.
I figured they shouldn't try. I'm just kidding.
I'm not. I think trying is everything. Like, everything matters when you try. And if it sucks and it blows and it doesn't work out, it's all right. Try again. Get up and do it again.
People were trying since the 60s to make this work, and they kept failing. And it has ruined the fact that they succeeded now.
I know. And now I'm never going to be able to think of my childhood days where it wasn't possible anymore. You've ruined my childhood. Hey, I'll tell you who hasn't ruined our childhood, and it's the many submitters over on our subreddit over there at the subreddit. You want to give some people some credit for today's stories?
I would love to. Big thanks to Jeff Rose, Ripley Ludacris, and Laundry Scent. I think that's a first time for Laundry Scent, so well done. For submitting stories on the subreddit at currentgeek.reddit.com that we used in today's show. And big thanks to everybody who votes over there as well and lets us know what they think is cool.
The entirety of this podcast is supported by you, our good friends at home, who support us at Patreon, patreon.com/CurrentGeek. If you like Current Geek in any of its formats, and we have a few now, that's a great place to go. And like $1 would not kill you, and it would really help us. Whatever you got, we'd love it. And for those who are already supporting us, you have our thanks. It's awesome to have you, and you're already getting membership cards, and you're already taking advantage of the great Patreon. But if you haven't, head on over there, patreon.com/CurrentGeek. And might I add, do it today.
The future promises even more startling things to come.
Time for Forecast. Used to be a show. Now it's a segment. We talk about the future in all kinds of ways. I got one that feels like it should be already happening, and I don't know why it isn't. And it's because I got a new phone today, and it occurred to me, if FedEx, UPS, and all the other carriers, we'll focus on those two for now, though, because they're the big ones. I want them to steal an idea. If this already exists, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, you just finish up.
All right, let me finish what I want. Oh, it's going to annoy me if you tell me this is already a thing I could do. All right, FedEx and UPS, all I get is an email saying, hey, your stuff's on the way. Hit this tracking number to see how it's going. I click it. It'll pop up and say, hey, it's left the shipping place, but there's this big vague area of nothing where it doesn't really, I don't really know where it is or what the timing's going to be. So if it's something I have to sign for, I kind of would like to have a little more granular information. I like things on Uber where I see a little car, or at Halloween it turned into a ghost or whatever it was, and coming down the street at you or whatever, and you're like, oh, there it is, I can see it. I see the route, and it's coming my way. I want that with package tracking. Now, you tell me, does that already exist? And if it does, it certainly isn't obvious because I have all the apps, I have all the stuff, I get all the notifications. Nothing shows me physically where these guys are on a little visual map.
Sure. Let me just say, forecasts can be a range of predictions from the near to the far. Okay. To the almost here, which is what you're describing, because Amazon is doing this in not all, but many cases.
Oh, that's good to hear. But do they do it with in conjunction with UPS, or is it only when they're using their own shippers?
So when you order from Amazon, I don't know if it applies to third-party carriers. It might only be when the Amazon trucks are carrying them. But sometimes, if you have the right settings, you'll get an email saying, hey, your package is out for delivery, track it here, and you can see the truck moving from place to place so that you know when it gets close to your house.
All right. Well, I will start using that. So this thing I got today was not from Amazon, but it came via FedEx. And I did some looking, and they don't have a service like this. All they have is like an email notification thing that it left the carrier or left to this place, or it will be there, or it's already come, you know. And there's no like idea of when in that zone. It's kind of like the old days you would wait for your cable guy, and he'd just say, well, I'll be there between noon and 4. That sucks.
In the old days. You mean now?
Well, they're not good at this either, but it just seems like stuff that's on its way to you, like food from Uber Eats or Grubhub or somebody, they all do this thing where you just know where it is. Even pizza places are better at this these days. They've gotten smart with their apps. It feels like the two major carriers should be doing this. Now, if Amazon's starting, they probably will. It's
the fact that Amazon is doing this is going to push them into doing it. So, I have not actually gotten this from Amazon on any of my packages for some reason. But a lot of people are getting the emails like, hey, your package is 10 stops away. Click here and you can watch it, arrive.
Yeah. And someone in the chat says they take a picture of where they put the app or put the package as well, which is super cool. I'm into that.
Yeah. The guys that leave the packages for me, I don't know when they enter that they left it, but I almost always get the notification on the Amazon Echo well after I've opened the door, pick up the package, and already opened it.
Oh.
I'll be like looking at the thing. I'll be setting it up.
Yeah.
And I'll get the like, bing, a package has arrived for you.
I'll get the same thing, like a text out of nowhere and tell me it's there. And that's kind of annoying. But anyway, just want to see. I think it's going to get more competitive and more crazy about how you get your stuff. There's going to be drones. There's going to be same-day deliveries. There's going to be all sorts of stuff. There already is in a lot of ways. And Amazon in lots of ways is leading the charge. If these guys want to remain important to at least the consumer sector of delivery, but I also think business would benefit from this as well. I think they just have to do more of this stuff. Like, get with the program, guys.
And Ben Dean Fox 3 says that they've had live updating delivery maps for a couple of years from at least 3 of the main package carriers there in the UK.
In the UK is the key term because the rest of the world does this stuff sooner than we do. Japan, I can go to Japan and buy like a dog out of a vending machine. We need a new dog, don't we? Cling, hold your phone up to the thing and it poops out a Shih Tzu and go home.
It poops out a Shih Tzu. Did you know what you were saying when you picked that breed?
No, but I feel like
that was pretty genius.
There's a subconscious part of me that did, but I wasn't trying to do that. But yes, it's a very good point. Dog vending machines, that's the future. That's my forecast, dog vending machines.
Dog vending machines. Yep. Great forecast.
They'll come in a wrapped.
When ethically done, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I want them asleep or, in some kind of airtight bag. They only come. They can be robots. I just want them to behave like real dogs. It's fine. No pooping.
Yeah. Robotic dogs. That would make it a lot easier to pull off without causing a problem.
And there's less ethical, dilemmas.
Well, there's less controls have to be put in place.
Yeah.
Make sure your dog is treated well.
They'd have to be cryogenically frozen and put, they have to be in some sort of sleep state.
No. You just have to have them in like a bunch of kennels with people taking care of them.
Oh.
And then when you push the vending machine button, it's like, oh, okay, Bobby's going away. Goodbye. Yeah. You found a home.
It can't be like that bag of chips on the top of the snack one that falls.
Also, it's just not like you'd have to go through some checks before, you don't let unscrupulous people buying dogs.
No.
Not treating them.
No, I agree. I mean, if anyone knows you do, you've got dogs. You love your dogs. I love my dogs.
Here's the thing about Japan. I've heard all of these stories all my life about the vending machines and me and buy panties and all that. Those are not fake news. They're the same as the story about where you live, where they took the one weird thing that nobody uses that was done as a publicity stunt and turned it into worldwide news. And you're like, I wish they'd stop thinking about where I live as the place that has that thing, because it's not representative of where I live at all. In fact, none of us here even did it. Right?
Sure.
That's what all those things about Japan are. Japan has a lot of vending machines. You know what they're full of? Drinks.
Right, but you can get phones and they do have stuff.
I'd get a phone at a vending machine here at LAX too.
Yeah, they have stuff in Vegas too.
They do have some pretty cool vending machines. I'm not gonna lie.
Sure.
But the majority of the vending machine impressiveness of Japan is that the drink vending machines are everywhere, and they can deliver cold and hot drinks.
Yeah.
So you get a hot coffee in a can out of a vending machine in Japan.
Sure. Yeah, you make a good point. Once again, away from the precipice, everybody. Tom's got this figured out. Forecast is fun, and if you got your own ideas for what those are, you can email us here on the show. But we're not doing emails yet, because instead we're going to talk right now about this. It is the best thing of all time this week.
Yes!
This week, the best thing of all time for me is reminding myself that 2015's Rebel Galaxy is an awesome video game, and the reason I was drawn back to it is I'm always on the lookout for games set in space, something along the lines of, Privateer / I can't think of any others, Wing Commander, that kind of stuff. And I pick up the newest thing a lot, and I'll go, and it doesn't quite do it. It doesn't quite scratch that itch. For whatever reason, Rebel Galaxy really scratches that itch, and it has since those lofty days of 2015 when it came out. They have a sequel planned for early next year called Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, and I'm very excited about it.
So you're talking about the video game,
not
some strange mashup of a Canon DSLR and a Samsung phone.
No, I'm not. The Rebel Galaxy.
Okay.
Yeah, where they weld the camera. Yeah, no, not that.
Yeah.
That is somebody out there wants that, but it ain't me.
Sure. Yeah.
This is a mirrorless experience in a video game, and it's great. I just love flying around, doing missions. There's a lot of randomization going on in that game, and they play. It's very Firefly inspired. They play like cool, kind of rockabilly music in the background instead of your typical outer space stuff. It feels like you're just kind of amongst pirates constantly. It's that kind of take on a universe, and I find it really fun. I like all the ships I can buy. It's just a great game, and Outlaw looks insane. I cannot wait for that to come out. So if you're thinking, man, I really could go to scratch that space itch, look no further. I think at Rebel Galaxy, it always provides the fun I want, and I just keep coming back to it, and probably will until Outlaw is released. Tom, what's your favorite thing of all time this week?
My favorite thing of all time is the advice that if you have to keep scratching that space itch more than 2 weeks, see your doctor.
They don't make a cream.
I've it's no secret. I moved into a new place. We bought a house finally after years of struggle. I don't know about struggle, but we really did have to save.
Yeah.
And so, we've been gussying the place up. One of the best things I've found for the house are these solar lawn lights. So you may have seen houses with the little walkway lights, and you're like, wow, that looks fancy, right?
Yeah.
And I've always thought, and in fact, the place I was renting had a complex system of these that had like buried underground electrical wire that had to be hardened to the elements and, wired into a system so that, it would automatically turn on and turn off and all this stuff.
Sure.
Forget all that.
Yeah.
Solpex makes solar powered LED path lights that have solar sensors on them. So they charge a rechargeable battery during the day from the sun. And then as soon as the sun goes down, they automatically turn on the light throughout the night.
Yep. And they're LEDs, which means they'll last freaking forever.
Yeah. So they don't draw a lot of power.
Yep. And don't really need to change them out very often. Is there any smart factor here, like a little Wi-Fi kind of anything?
These are dumb as rocks otherwise. Right. They're only $40 for 4, so they're $10 a pop, which ain't bad. When you look at some of those electric systems that you have to install they could be pretty pricey. So yeah, it'd be nice to have some kind of app related thing, but that would drive up the price. And honestly, I don't need that. I just need them to go on when it's dark and then turn off when the sun comes up. And that's exactly what they do.
Yeah. These look great. I'm looking at Amazon's also got an 8-pack of these for $10 more is all. Wait, is that right? Yeah. $59.99 for 8. That's pretty good.
And the, you know, eventually that rechargeable battery will die and you can replace it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Look at that. They show how that comes apart. Super easy, looks like. Oh, it's waterproof. Nice. Tom, you may have to get these. I don't really have a path.
The only downside I could see from them so far is we have so many birds in our area.
Yeah.
That I can tell I'm starting to get bird poop accumulating on the solar cell.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to have to go out and wipe them up every so often.
Yeah, but that's, I don't know. Nature comes in once in a while and reminds us who's boss, but it'll be fine. I think I am going to get these. I'm going to totally do this. This is a great idea. I got a little path on the front of the house, and this is a total manly thing to do too, you know, putting lights around the house and stuff.
It's not even that. It is definitely impressive looking.
Yeah.
Like putting these in, my neighbor came over like, oh, what'd you get? You know, and we had the old conversation about the lawn, the classic conversation.
Sure.
And they're so easy to put together. Like you pull them out, you take the top off, you pull out a safety tab that keeps it from running accidentally while it's in the box, and you turn it on.
Yeah.
Then you put the top back on, you plug the stake into it, you put them in the ground. You know, and now if your ground's hard, you might need to wet the ground or something to get them in there, but they go in pretty easy.
Chat room says, Strike It Rich says, $3 a piece at Walmart if you want to save a little money. That's only $24 for 8 of them. That's pretty cheap. Nice. Good recommendation.
Is that the same brand, though? Because there are a lot of different brands. I did some research, and I settled on these because they had a lot of reviews and still 4.5 stars.
Yeah, I see that as well.
4.5 or is it 5?
I don't know if they're the same or not. I'd be very curious. If they are the same brand, that's great news. If not, maybe this is still the way to go. I would rather ones that are decent and last.
Because I definitely found cheaper ones, but they had like 1-star review on Amazon. I was like, I don't know about those.
Boy, there are a ton of these, and a lot of them are like got fake flames in them. Like all kinds of weird stuff.
Sidian says, and if your ground is hard for more than 4 hours, consult a geologist.
Yeah. Ask your geologist if your ground's hard enough for you. If
Solpex is right for you.
Exactly. It even sounds like a medication. That's awesome. All right. Well, that's a great thing this week. That's great. Congratulations on finding it. And now, an email. This is feedback from one of our listeners. Actually, it's a question for us, and it came to the email address currentgeek@gmail.com, and it says, Dear Tom and Scott, what Marvel heroes have not gotten MCU treatment would you like to see up on the big screen? Marco Johnonomics is his name. I assume that's a nickname.
That is the Marvel hero that I would like to see on the big screen. Right
Marco Johnonomics. I don't know what his powers are, but I like it. I gave this
before we start this, it sounds like Shang-Chi, the Marvel character created in 1973, is joining the MCU, so you can't pick him.
Oh, right. That's a good point. I mean, I'm going to cheat a little and say, I mean, he says heroes, but I think villains are also optional. Right. I would like to see the MCU's take on, oh, no, I forgot his name. The little guy trapped in the seat with a giant head. MODOK. There it is. MODOK.
Richie Rich.
Yes, Richie Rich. Please bring him back. No, MODOK is this really weird, at least on the page, weird idea for a villain. And he's kind of ridiculous, but also kind of fascinating in some of the stories he's in. And I think MODOK would make a really interesting take in the MCU. I would like to see what they do with him, and they could almost use him in any scenario because he's had run-ins with just like the Avengers and Fantastic Four and the X-Men. He's bugged everybody, and now that they've got X-Men and Fantastic Four back, or somebody told me this morning that deal's not final. I thought it was final.
It's not finalized yet.
Okay, no, but it's final.
It's not closed. It has received regulatory approval.
Okay, so unless there's
it's not closed.
Yeah,
it is unlikely that it will not close, but it's not closed. And until it's closed, it's not closed.
Yeah, it won't be closed till it's closed. I totally get it. It's like a door. So when they close it, because all signs seem to point to that they will, if they do, MODOK is your man, because he's probably currently a Fantastic Four license, I think. I don't know, actually. All right, so that's my pick. Do you have a hero you want to see or a villain you want to see make his or her way?
Well, I was about to say the Eternals, but I think that's in the works.
Yeah.
Apparently.
I heard about that. They kind of
I think I've run out of Marvel heroes that I am familiar with.
They are kind of getting around to him. How about Moon Knight?
I'm not, I am not deep in the Marvel lore.
Yeah.
I did not read a lot of Marvel comics. I was a Spider-Man fan. I know of the Fantastic Four and X-Men. Okay.
Yeah.
But I am not deep. I was excited to see Vulture finally show up in a Spider-Man. That's about as geeky as I get with Marvel, though.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I'm not somebody who can pull back, deep into the. I mean, Scarlet Witch was a revelation for me when she showed up in Avengers. I'm like, who's that?
Yeah.
Moon Knight is apparently coming. I have nothing of Moon Knight.
Moon Knight is coming because I like Moon Knight.
That's apparently in the works too, as a character, not as its own movie.
I like Moon Knight.
So, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
Where my head goes with this question is out of the Marvel universe. I'm like, I want to see Irredeemable and Incorruptible.
All right. Well, I'm going to add to this question then. Well, that's your answer, I guess. But those, like if you had to pick some indie stuff to get some good cinematic treatment, you'd go there.
That's where I would go. I would love to see those series turned into movies.
Yeah, those are incredible.
Or maybe series, live action TV series.
I'm pretty sure Irredeemable. Yeah, better for TV. Actually, I would agree. I'm pretty sure Irredeemable, I read that based on your recommendation, and it was so freaking good. What a great comic book. So good, you guys. Invincible's being worked on,
And you can start with Irredeemable, and if it does well, then do Incorruptible as sort of the angel to your Buffy, basically.
Yeah. And someone in the chat says Invincible as well, and I agree, Tondergosa, but I think that's also being worked on by somebody.
Yeah, Invincible is Irredeemable and Incorruptible are in the same universe.
Right.
Invincible's a separate author, different universe, and it is being worked on.
It's the Walking Dead guy's creation. Yeah. I can't think of his name all of a sudden. Why can't I think of his name? Anyway, doesn't matter. Fine question. Robert Kirkman. Thank you very much. You got us there with your good question, and if you want to send in stuff like Marco Johnonomics, I think I'm saying
macro.
It right. Oh, sorry, macro.
Johnonomics. Oh, because macroeconomics. Got it. I get it now.
It's just all coming to me now. If you want to be like him or her, I don't know. I have no idea there. You can send us an email, currentgeek@gmail.com. Stick around for the end of the show because you will be regaled with a fine treatment from Legal Geek this week covering piracy law. It's an update, including research into fake fingerprints, busting biometric ID scanners, and a 2018 gift guide evaluating products on data security and creepiness. So enjoy that. That should be fun. That's coming right up. Legal Geek. Don't miss it. Tom, before we go, do you have anything you'd like to mention?
I do. There is an audiobook out with Veronica Belmont as the performer of my book, Gallium. Now, for many of you, that's enough. You're like, give me that book because I want to hear Veronica read things that you wrote. And that's awesome. But if you're someone who's like, I don't know, is it any good? I will say yes. It's getting very good reviews from people who aren't me, who are like, Veronica, you did a great job reading this book. The story is about a salvager named Maya in a mined out solar system where the corporation that mined it is long gone, but is still trying to protect its secrets. And when Maya discovers a salvage that is not only of historical significance, but also highly controversial and possibly embarrassing to the company, people try to stop her from uncovering it. Whoa. Do you want to find out why? Do you want to find out what? Then buy Gallium. You can get it at tomsnewbook.com.
Available now. All right. Real quick, if you're looking for a last-minute gift idea for somebody in your life who likes nerdy things like, say, classic video games, boy, do I have a cool idea for you. Over at frogpants.com/store, I just put up a brand new print for a piece I just finished called Gamer Gallery Print. It's a super boring name, but it is kind of exactly what it sounds like. I'm blowing it up here for the chat room so you guys can see it. It is a collection of some of my favorite video game characters and representations of games of all time. It includes everything from Mario to Samus to Frogger to Tempest to Mass Effect. You name it, it's in here. Portal 2, Donkey Kong, Joust is represented. Got a little Warcraft representation. It's a very nice little print. You can hang it on your wall. and show your friends and say, hey, man, check it out. See if you can guess what all these are. And it has a little legend at the bottom that'll tell you in case you don't know. But anyway, it's super cheap as well. They start at only $8 and are available now on the store. Just head on over to frogpants.com/store and check that and other cool stuff out while you're there. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for being here and listening. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. I forgot we're doing a movie, right? Movie.
Yeah. So it'll be It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a wonderful. Oh, right. It's a Christmas movie for the month. So It's a Wonderful Life. That's next week, right here on the movie festival that Tom and I do. Too many Brians. Tom and I do each and every month. So are they, I'm sure. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to having you with us. So come check that out. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you next time, everybody.
You were afraid you were going to call me Brian again.
I was kind of.
For me.